Hello, welcome to Grandpa Snippets number 26. In the other snippets, I have mentioned things that I have been interested in the past and things that got my attention as a young boy. And one definitely was airplanes. I don't know a boy that wouldn't be interested in airplanes. Back when I was a boy, they had single engine planes, and of course they had propellers, not jets. They were propellers. And sometimes planes had two engines and a propeller. And if you had four engines, two on each side, man, you had a really strong plane. But nowadays I realize that we have jets, and we have super jets and probably supersonic jets, all kinds of new things coming on. When I was a boy, 10 or 12, I remember sending in box tops from cereal. I kind of wanted to pretend I was a pilot, and you could get a cockpit, cardboard cockpit. This is not it. I just made one that was maybe similar to it. Had a lot of gauges and so forth. One was important, it didn't run out of gas. The gas gauge is on there. And the number of feet, your altitude, and whether you were flying level, and I enjoyed it. And then back then, instead of having like I think a half a steering wheel or something that looks like what it looks like me today. Back then, I remember there was a stick came with it. This is long. I'll back up. There was a stick came with it, and this controlled the maneuvering of the plane. If you pulled back, then you climbed. If you went down with it forward, you would nosedive. You would go to the side or go this way. So you would have your dashboard, and there is a leveling device. Of course, it never moved, but you pretended it did. And so as a boy, that's what I did. And I would sit there, and I would have on my aviator's hat. My aviator's hat had goggles on it. It was a leather hat. It was fleece lined. In fact, a lot of boys wore them. They were actually good for winter because they had things came down over your ears and snapped under your chin. And they were good practical caps to wear. You close your eyes and pretend that you were flying. One thing most kids did when we were young was make paper airplanes. I haven't seen a kid make a paper airplane for ages. It looked something like this. Just out of a piece of paper, and we'll see if we can make this fly. Sometimes we would make our paper airplanes, and you could do different designs and flap up the wings here or whatever. Sometimes there was a P-38 with a different type of a tail on it, and then you would set a line out there and see how close you could get. Let's just see what this one will do. Here we go. And you would fly your plane trying to get it near the goal line. How you'd make that is basically you would just take a flat piece of paper, 8.5 by 11, and then you would fold it, move in the two front flaps, put it together, bend the wings down like this. So that's a quick lesson on how to build a paper plane. A no-no was if you were in school, you made sometimes littler ones, and when the teacher wasn't looking, you would, and it was big trouble if you got caught. And chewing gum and little paper planes was the big things back then, those days. I got my first plane ride when I was a teenager. My cousin Wayne gave me a plane ride over the city, over the farmland, and I looked down there was like a checkerboard, the farmlands and the creeks and the lakes, and just amazing. Let me give you a little background on Wayne. Wayne was my cousin. So he was my first cousin. To my children, that would be their second cousin, and to you, my grandchildren, third cousin, and to great-grandchildren, the fourth cousin. When I was probably 5, I suppose, that's the age I was, when I remember Wayne specifically, and he was probably 10 years older than I was, probably 15. And he was staying at my grandma and grandpa's house. I do not know why. I mean, his family got along and everything, but he had a room at Grandma's house, and he attended high school just 2 blocks down the street. Wasn't a large town, but that's where he attended high school. But I remember his room specifically. From the ceiling, he would have hanging planes, and he had made model planes, and 5, 8 of them, and they really attracted me. While he was in high school, he learned to fly a plane. He became a pilot. So when he graduated, he graduated during the war, so they drafted him into the Army Air Corps, and they immediately made him a pilot. And he was very, very young pilot. He piloted a B-29 with 9 crew members. I've heard him tell, he never related much, but he said he flew from England to Germany and would drop his bomb loads. He made several flights, but then on one unfortunate flight, before he dropped his bombs, he got hit with anti-aircraft fire, and it just took the plane like you take butter, a knife, and go through butter like a hot knife and just split it, and it just split the plane. Half went one way and half went the other. Out of the 9, 3 of the crew members lived. Wayne was thrown under the controls, and he said it was only through God's help and mercy he ever lived, because he said he had no oxygen up there, and he was pinned under the controls. He didn't know what to do, and the plane was on fire. It was spiraling earthward, and so it seemed like God just told him, pull your ripcord, because he was exposed to the outside, what was now the outside of the plane, and he pulled, and it pulled him out from underneath the controls and tore off part of his clothes, and when he was coming down, the chute was on fire and dropped bits of things in his hair burned. He got to the ground. The Germans were naturally upset over the bombing raids, and they were going to hang him, but the German soldiers came up, rescued him, and threw him in a prison camp where he got little food at times. For a year and a half, we didn't know whether he was dead or alive. Mom tried to contact him and send him a package at Christmas time. It came back undeliverable. And so all we could do was keep praying that he would be all right. There was just no word from him. It was in 1946, the year after the war. He came to town with he and his wife. And while we was visiting, he said, if you just let me have a couple hours, I'll be gone. I'll be right back. We didn't know where he was going, but he went down. He came back and he told us he'd gone to Vandalia, where he went to the airport, and he rented a plane. And he went up and he dove it and he spun it and he dived it and everything you could possibly do. And he said the reason why I did that was, he said he had not flown a plane since that day he was shot down, and he had a fear and he had to get rid of it, and he did. God blessed him and helped him. I remember Wayne because of his smile. He was a very positive person, quiet-mannered, quiet-spoken. There was things in his life that could have made him actually have a grudge against life as he looked at life. For before entering the war, he lost his father and his sister and brother in a tragic drowning. All 3 drowned on Labor Day of 1940. That would have been my uncle and my cousin Beulah at 14, and my cousin Larry at 9, which would be your second cousins or your third cousins and he wasn't with them at the day. Only his mother Marie was there, and she saw all that happen. Wayne wasn't with them, but I would have expected someone who had gone through all of that to have a score to settle. Something about life isn't fair. And apparently life sometimes is not fair. Sometimes we get, as they say, dealt a deck of cards or a hand of cards that's not good. So, we never saw each other very much because he lived in Illinois, he lived in Colorado, and eventually went to Alaska. But from the first time after the loss of his family, after that tragedy, Wayne always had a smile. He was always kind, had a warm spirit, and he loved God. He went on to serve as a colonel in the Air Force Reserve, and then later he served as a bush pilot in Alaska. Whatever bush pilots do, rescue or deliver things and all kinds of things, but he loved to fly. So we have a choice in life. We have a choice in life. We can either believe life is going to be better, or we can take it as bitter, B-E-T-T-E-R or B-I-T-T-E-R. So we can take a choice whether life is going to be better or bitter for us. When life hands you a lemon, they said make lemonade. Sometimes people look at a glass and they will say, oh, that glass is half empty. Others will look at it and say, no, it's half full. So we have a choice what we look at in life, the way we look at it. So what did Wayne have going for him? He had his faith in God, and God was in control. So always remember that God is greater than the problems that you face. Apparently so in Wayne's life. Songwriter said, he never has failed me yet. I would recommend that you do, as someone said, spend each morning when you get up just a moment at the windowsill of heaven. Look at the windowsill, look in and see what God has prepared for those who live for Him during their life, and have a positive attitude and prepare themselves to pass through one day beyond that windowsill into what's prepared for them. So we can all make reservations, be prepared to go to be with Him. Another thing Wayne had going for him was that he had family prayers and family behind him. And like I said, I remember Mother praying for him a lot and not knowing whether he was passed on or was surviving the war. Someone said when we call out one of our loved ones' names to God, it goes like a lightning bolt to the throne with that person's name on it. And God hears the prayer and goes to work to answer that prayer. So He is listening. In Psalm 17:6, He said, I have called upon you, for you will hear me. That's what David said. So this is the only one of many, many scriptures that I could share with you. So you don't have to scream. God already knows what's on your heart, what's on your mind. It says He knows before you even ask. So let me close by saying Jeremiah 33:3 says, call unto me, that's out of your heart, out of your spirit, and I will answer you. May I ask you a question? Did you know God likes to hear your voice? Your voice is special. Probably it has a tone to it like nobody else in the world, your voice. So call upon Him and speak to Him, and He wants to hear you talk to Him. I advise you to do that. Thank you.